Hey guys, we're back on the Power Play here on WDSR Student Radio at Duquesne University as our semester is coming to a close. This is our finale show. We will be with you for 2 hours today instead of our traditional hour. So I just want to say before we start, thank you to everybody who has tuned in and listened to us and has followed us on Twitter and really just kind of supported this show. We've had a lot of fun doing it, and we've all learned a lot through this experience. So it's been enjoyable for us. We hope it's been enjoyable for you as well.
You're bringing me to tears, Katie.
Oh, I just have a way with words. I mean,
so eloquent.
I feel like I'm in
I try.
poetry hour down at the local cafe.
Can we do
the show?
How about instead of Jake's rant segment, we just do like a big poetry reading?
Poetry.
Can we do it? I could probably find some.
By the end of the show, Katie is going to write a poem.
I'm going to do a hockey haiku.
About hockey haiku. There we go.
Oh no!
Everyone tune in. There's a 1 hour countdown for the haiku.
I gotta start counting my syllables. I have an hour, so
I'm out.
I don't blame you, honestly.
All right, so we have kind of gone through a little bit, touched on the games in the Western Conference, and scrolling through online, I thought it was kind of interesting. If you're looking at the NHL 3 stars, are they doing them for the playoffs, or are we still stuck on last week?
They should do them for the playoffs.
Well, they do, so we're good. And the 3 stars I thought was really interesting. 2, 4... What?
From yesterday.
Yeah.
The 3 stars of yesterday's...
Don't try and confuse me.
I'm sorry, I don't know what you're looking at, Daisy. The 3 stars for yesterday...
Wow, the same page you are.
...was Justin Williams was the first star. He had 2 goals. Tuukka Rask, one of my favorites, was unbelievable last night. 35 saves, including a pivotal overtime save. And then the third star was Marian Gaborik. He had 2 goals as well for the Kings. It was hard for anyone from the Kings not to have 2 goals in their offensive display last night.
What I was trying to say was that I thought it was interesting that out of the 3 stars, 2 were from the Kings.
The Kings really rallied back last night. They were down 3-0 in the series, and to come back and take Game 4 the way they did, I'm not surprised at all that there's 2 of them in the top 3 players.
They didn't want to get swept.
Nope. And that's exactly what you got to do in order to avoid that. You got to come back fighting no matter, what kind of adversity you're facing. So,
you know what I thought the other day, talking about being swept, was it being from Tampa Bay, do you really feel that depressed after you get swept out of the playoffs? I mean, the next day you're either on the golf course or on the beach, or at the beach. Like, there's a gold lining to every...
that way, I wouldn't be too mad.
Yeah, I mean...
I probably wouldn't be playing hockey.
But here's the thing. You can, if you're in Florida at Tampa Bay, you can go to the golf course anytime you want, but you can't watch hockey anytime you want. So, yeah, I'd be a little disappointed if I was down there and you got swept out, especially because they've had kind of a rocky season with Stamkos, being out for a while, major trades at the trade deadline, and
Bishop's injury.
I kind of wish that, maybe they had a little bit more of a chance to kind of prove themselves in the playoffs, that they actually were able to survive a very rough season.
Let's say that this Boston series and these other series go for a bit longer. Do you start being concerned as a Montreal player, just as far as the large break that you're going to have? I think they last played on, was it Monday or Tuesday night? I think it was Monday night they ended up sweeping them.
Yeah,
do you get concerned? They could potentially not play for over a week.
I don't know if I would be concerned. I think I would just look at that as a factor into game strategy and stuff. I mean, Montreal at this point, they're kicking back and they're waiting to see who they got coming up in the next round. But I think it could hinder them, but it could also really help out. I mean, they have a week to really kind of,
It's resting versus maintaining sort of your practice and your games mode. Sort of either one team's going to be fresh off just winning the series, still on schedule, and the other team's going to be all rested up. Hopefully Montreal's been sort of resting their players. Yeah,
well, the way the Boston-Detroit series is going, if Boston wins that series and rolls out of it right into Montreal, like, you look at that rivalry, they're going to be fired up because of who they're facing. But if Detroit turns around and wins that and rolls out of the series, they're going to be on a high because they came back from a 3-1 deficit. So either way, you got 2 teams coming out of that series that are going to be firing on all cylinders for different reasons.
I know it's a potential matchup, but that potential Boston-Montreal...
Why are you dipping into the East?
Why are we dipping into the East? I'm getting excited, Daisy. It's playoffs.
It's Boston. That's
We got a Boston fan with us
playoffs,
right now.
exams. I know the fans. I've been all of the direct messages to our account has been about the Boston games. This
okay.
this Chris kid's been really wanting to talk about it.
Oh, okay.
But I just think it's interesting seeing the rivalries in the playoffs. It adds a bit more to it. You look forward to it in the regular season, and then in the playoffs, that's when you develop those real heated rivalries. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens over there.
Yeah, and kind of
That ends my rant.
Just yeah, they're filling in for Jake this week. We have Chris and his Boston rant. But no, I think like kind of just to finish up on the whole sweep of Tampa. I'm actually kind of surprised that they got swept. I was not. I didn't really anticipate any kind of a sweep in the first round, and I don't know. Just like I said, because Tampa Bay has overcome so much adversity this season that I really thought that they were gonna come out strong in the first round and just really try to prove to themselves and to everybody else that okay, yeah, we've had our bumps in the road. We've really kind of had an up and down season, but they're still a good team and. Their whole team dynamic, I guess, has just been really interesting to me over the past few seasons. They'll be really, really good, and then they'll be not so good at times. So,
my favorite rivalry in the West right now is obviously the Kings and the Sharks. I know that was one of the things I came in today most excited to talk about. So, I don't know. It's just so interesting.
We have a Kings fan here.
I wouldn't say I'm a Kings fan. I'm more of a Rangers fan. I don't really have anyone that I'm too keen on in the West, I guess.
Yeah, in the same way.
King. Okay, yeah, maybe the King. Jump on the bandwagon.
I'll be honest. I just want to be a Kings fan because I love their Twitter people. I will go back to that every single time. Their Twitter game is on fire.
They could go 0-80. I still feel like you would just absolutely love them.
Oh my god, yeah.
First ever winless season, but their social media was off the charts.
Oh, it really was. If they were giving out a Stanley Cup for their Twitter game, they would win every time. You want to talk about a series sweep? Hand it to the Kings Twitter people.
Yeah, at least if and when they lose tomorrow night, their Twitter game will still be strong. I wonder what they're gonna have to say about that.
Do you think they're still gonna keep tweeting about the other series?
Hashtag ask me.
I was just going to say that.
There might be like a 10-minute period where they just drink away their sorrows.
Twitter
then they'll be back. They'll be back. 10 minutes to just think about what just happened and then all about next year.
If there are some drunk tweets from their sorrows, if they lose coming out of that account, oh man, even better. They don't only win the Stanley Cup, they get like the MVP scoring title. Just give them everything. Give them everything. I cannot express to you how much I love the Kings Twitter account.
I guess we're on the Kings bandwagon. You could say that in the West.
For different reasons.
Home advantage aside, going back to the Chicago-St. Louis series, regardless of who's home in Game 6, who needs to win tonight's game? And why? They both won 2 games in a row. Who does this game mean more to tonight?
Chicago. And I say that because Patty Kane is on a roll. He was on a roll on Wednesday. He hadn't scored for the 2 previous games. He exploded for 3 different points, 2 goals, and an assist on Wednesday. And I think if he can keep it up, it's looking pretty good for Chicago.
I'm going to go with St. Louis, actually, just because, yeah, the Blues did take an early 2-0 lead after the first 2 games, but they won them both in overtime, and I really think that they're going to have to win a game in regulation to really prove themselves as being a strong playoff team and a contender to make it to the next round. I know Chicago did win a game in overtime as well, but just because of I hate to call it a fluke because I don't really necessarily think it's a fluke that they won in overtime in the first 2 games, but I just think they still need to prove themselves a little bit more in regulation play that's going to come out and say, we are here, it is the playoffs, and we're going to fight.
I agree. I feel like St. Louis needs to send a message tonight. I know it doesn't really matter in these playoffs as far as all you're looking to get is that win next to your name. I know I'm just saying, I forget the home advantage, but if St. Louis loses tonight and Chicago rolls into Chicago with a 3-2 lead, that series is over.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When you're looking at where the games are being played, St. Louis desperately needs to win this game. If Chicago takes the lead in the series and then goes rolling back into their hometown, yeah,
I think that'll
totally
do it.
agree with you.
But I feel like if I'm any other team in the Western Conference right now, I'm rooting for St. Louis. I feel like Chicago's been the more dangerous team. We saw it last year in the playoffs. Chicago's got that X factor to it. You can't name it until it happens. Some night it might be sort of just outstanding blocking, outstanding sort of hits. But Chicago looks more of a dangerous team to all those matchups they could face in the Western Conference than St. Louis does. St. Louis has been that good team year round. They obviously had that bad streak to end the season, and they just haven't dominated. I know no team's really dominated in this series, but St. Louis hasn't really shown me enough in regulation to warrant picking them every game.
I don't know, maybe it's weird that I think this, but I kind of see Chicago as the showboat team of the West.
They are. You could make that argument for, well, I guess you can't right now for the Kings, but...
I think maybe the other reason why I'm leaning more towards St. Louis is just because in that series, they're more of the underdog. Just because of the nature of the Chicago team and their past couple seasons. You know, they've won the Cup, 2 out of the last, 4 years? Yeah. So... yeah, they not only does St. Louis have a lot to prove, not just for themselves, but they have a lot to prove to the rest of the league that they can compete with the big boys in Chicago.
It's very true.
I have to agree. I see Chicago just really being that team that doesn't really care about a series lead. Last year they were down 3-1 in that Western Conference Finals against Detroit, and they came back and they won the Stanley Cup. I feel like the 2-0 lead really didn't factor into their preparation at all. Obviously, you want to win every game. But I feel like being down 3-2 wouldn't be much of a deficit for them. It's obviously one game. But I don't know, just all these series that are tied at 2-2, you want them to go one way, but they can go both. That's what's the wonder. That's what's the wonder of the playoffs.
Well, I think that, 2-2, just because we have so many 2-2 series in the entire NHL right now, it's almost like you're starting over. You know, you start the series, 0-0, and now you're at 2-2. But I think what's different about this is when you're starting out the series, game 1, nobody has an advantage. You're playing to just kind of get that little edge. Well, now there's a lot more riding on it. So it's really hard for me to put this into words, but
I don't think anyone can.
It's like a whole new ball game almost. I'll go with that. You've got two teams that need to win the same number of games, and I just think when you have that 2-2 hanging over you instead of starting in game 1 completely fresh, there's a lot more pressure. There's a lot more that you have to prove, and I think there's a whole new, different mental approach that you have to take into consideration when you go into those games. So for me, these next couple of games for all these series are going to be a whole lot more exciting to watch, and they're going to mean a whole lot more than anyone, I think, expected them to.
Hey, I'm going to stop you right there for right now, Katie. We are going to take...
Debbie Down this afternoon. You're interrupting me and Katie every segment. Oh.
I have to be careful.
We gotta take our breaks.
When I'm a YouTube partner, it'll be fine, and we can go for as long as we need to. Don't you sass me.
Don't you sass me back.
Whoa, everyone's got their sassy pants on today.
Anyways, how about when we come back, I let you talk about Boston?
He's just
Don't you shake your head at me.
He's shaking his head.
I'm not even going to respond to your sass. And listeners, I hope you still tune in after this. This is Chris, Katie, and Daisy. This is the Power Play. Please keep tuning in on WDSR. We'll be back just after this.
Go put your sassy pants on.